the lights are on, but no one's home. That's a good way of saying someone's stupid as fuck. Welcome back to Stacked. We're coming back to you with another cozy review. We haven't done these in a while,
it's been
guys.
a while. What was our last cozy review? Dune? Was it Dune?
The last one that we filmed together was Dune.
Okay,
yeah,
wow.
but I did a solo one for X-Men 97.
Right,
but
yes,
we're back
that's true.
together. We got the big cozy blanket, the big cozy corner. We're just going to be, pumping some of these out because we're all busy during the month of October. So we'll get to these, and then you'll look forward to a Halloween special at the end of the month. But for now, we are here to talk about a horror film. The Substance.
By Coraline
Foguet.
She's a French woman.
Forget.
For anyone who doesn't know, this is her second film, I believe.
At least second,
Feature film.
feature.
Or
yeah.
like
big time.
widely released feature.
Yeah.
She previously directed a film called Revenge,
Yeah.
which we'd all seen. Ethan and I saw in our horror film class, and we recommended it to Brandon shortly after.
Brandon hated it.
No, I liked it.
We all liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's got a style for this sort of almost like hyper realist sort of thing. She's always really into body horror, a lot of feminist
Gore.
issues going on in her films, which was fantastic to see. And it's really cool to see that this film is getting its big kind of release. And
It's a movie release.
yeah, and also
That's crazy.
It won the screenwriting award at Cannes.
It did.
Which was quite unconventional, I would say, for a body horror film.
I would say just quite unconventional for this film in general. I would have not have predicted. I really enjoyed the screenplay to this film.
Yeah, me too.
But I wouldn't have predicted that, a jury would have, let alone nominated this.
At Cannes.
at
Maybe
Cannes.
at TIFF or...
Maybe at TIFF or maybe at, Beyond Fest or
Yeah.
something, because it's very to the point in its
Yeah.
screenplay.
It's very upfront.
And in another type of film, I feel like I would have had a problem with that in terms
Yeah.
of what it's talking about. This okay. I don't want to go into plot details. We can because talk about spoilers because we're gonna assume you've already seen this film. It's been out for a while, but this movie is about sort of it's a cautionary tale about how we and specifically women view their own bodies and how society sort of manipulates that view and how they view self-worth and beauty and everything in that and body and how how these outside views just become doomed when one gets older.
Yeah.
And the amount of lengths that women put themselves through to make themselves fit into this mold of what is attractive and what is beautiful now. And there's some pretty fucked up stuff that, that are offered to women today. And I feel like, let's see, I'm going to try to pronounce her name because that's what I was looking up on my phone. Coralie Fargeat, Fargeat. It's Fargeat. In French,
Fargot.
I've never seen a French word like that and how to pronounce that. So just mail us a pipe bomb if we get it wrong. But yeah, she takes that concept, this really toxic thing that's in our world, and dials it up to 11.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything in this film is dialed up to 11.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like some people could read it as very cringe and to the point.
Almost exploitative, some people might say.
Right. But I feel like this is just an issue that just needs to be shoved in your face. Be look what is fucking wrong with, as Joker would say, our society.
But no, I'm with you there because like you said, this kind of overt style of filmmaking is something that often doesn't get celebrated within the award space.
Absolutely.
Especially at Cannes, where Cannes, I feel like, often comes with that kind of pastiche of the great cinema,
Yeah.
But I feel like what they achieved with this film is this very overt sort of indictment of the way in which society projects these expectations onto women and the psychological repercussions of that. And it's an awful thing to see, but I'm grateful that it committed to what it was going for. I'm glad it didn't flip flop.
100%.
Yeah, it's like I would have felt a lot less enthusiastic about this movie if it didn't just lean into the fact that we are communicating this in the most clear cinematic language possible.
Yeah.
There's very little room for subtlety here, which, depending on your own like kind of taste as a film goer, you may resonate with or you might not. But for at least for me, I thought it worked really well, and I'm glad this movie exists. It's breached its way into my top 5 of the year so far.
Yeah.
So, I'm really happy with this movie. Brandon, you are suspiciously quiet. What is going on with you?
You hated this film.
No, I didn't.
What would you like to say about this movie?
I think the substance, like you said, does a great job at visually communicating ideas. Much like Revenge, like there's not a whole ton of dialogue within the film, and for something that's 2.5 hours to be able to communicate in just like the opening sequence with the Walk of Fame, sort of. Even though it doesn't snow in LA, and that's totally, that was like
That's how you could tell she was French.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
like,
wait, seriously?
yeah.
Snow in LA? All right, go back to Frogland.
yeah.
Okay.
But like it does such a great job at effectively communicating those themes without having to resort to dialogue or specific choices. But there are dialogue sequences that are overt or satire-like with the inclusion of somebody like Dennis Quaid's character.
Oh my God.
He is.
Who is a monster.
Yeah.
But
He is so
funny.
Yeah.
But
And the way they shoot
almost
him on like a
the way
fisheye.
That wide
it's
ass
always
lens.
fisheye, and it's always like on his his disgusting mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because his mouth is the most disgusting part of his body because of what he says.
Yeah.
And what he ingests.
It's
Yeah.
very like
He makes himself
it's
the center of attention.
borderline like cartoonish, but I think that for me that works really well.
No,
Right.
it absolutely does.
And it's impeccably done. And, I heard a lot of things about the movie's body horror and stuff like that going in, but I had not seen the trailer for this. I was surprised that my theater got it because I'm surprised most theaters got it.
Yeah, I'm surprised it got such a wide release.
Because it's a movie release, and Universal dropped the film, actually.
Really?
Fumbled.
Before Cannes, they dropped the film because they thought, how are we going to market this movie to a wide audience? We don't want to release it. So Mubi picked up the distribution rights, and I am very thankful. And honestly, it's been doing really well. And every screening I've gone into is like 30 people, 40 people, which is a lot for a movie
Pretty
like
good
that.
for a movie
And
like this.
And it's intense, and I've never seen anything quite like it. We've seen body horror films from Cronenberg, or things that mess with like cautionary tales and like what you do to your own body. But I think this movie does it in such a unique way without confusing the viewer. I think it's pretty expressly clear what's going on here about the idea of consciousness and split consciousness and identity, and how everybody just wants to be their best self, and you can't always attain that or keep that over the course of time. And some people just forget what beauty is.
Yeah.
Like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That there's that nice guy who has like the greasy strangler line delivery, who's her like
neighbor.
Yeah. That guy, or the guy she meets at the clinic, or the
like her friend, or not their friend, just the guy that she
from
went to
high school.
From high school,
Yeah.
Right.
Despite that, it's like so clear. It's like this fairy tale almost.
Yeah.
Like a Grimm's fairy tale, and an adult one at that. And it's so great, and I'm so impressed. The sound design, I don't know if you guys...
is insane. The sound design, editing, and the performances by Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley.
Yeah.
I think those are like my 3 highlights of this film. Just because I think all three of those things play into sort of that maximalist mentality of pushing forward this message. I think all 3 of those factors, like Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, they both exactly know how to play this duality of the public life versus private life, and how they fight all the time. And I feel like that's not even something that has to do with your body, and that's not even something that has to do with like just women. That's just, I think that's just something in general of us
The
living
humans do it,
of living in internet age, especially of you have to have, there are these two personalities now. There's the private, you have to be like always beautiful, always outgoing, you always gotta have like this X factor to present yourself on your social media and stuff like that. Whereas your private life, and I feel like that like affects your private life, and it drains you.
Totally.
It drains that private self.
Yeah.
You know, like what literally happens in the film.
Yeah. And I like one thing that I was, really taken aback by was that, as men, we don't have to deal with as many of those kinds of social expectations about the way we look as women do. But nonetheless, I found myself like really profoundly connecting with, I guess both of them, but Demi Moore's kind of plight and feeling like she's being left behind by this, and especially the entertainment industry is particularly brutal about this. And I was really it just spoke to me really closely. And I remember like I went to like what's the name of that makeup store, Sephora, with Angelica shortly after, and I remember just being like, this is bullshit, look at all this, like look at all this junk. But it's also like but at the same time, it's like, obviously if you want to dress and present as you wish, but I'm sad when I look at that. Part of me now is like saddened and disheartened to know that a lot of the motivation for people to make themselves look a certain way is because society puts it on them.
It's not always it's not really like them personally expressing themselves. It's like
oh, I have to like look a certain
exactly.
Like, that sucks.
Whenever you go into
we're lucky that none of us are wearing makeup right now, and I'm just like, all
right.
We're putting ourselves on the internet right now because whatever.
I look like shit when the cameras are off. All right, this took 4 hours to do.
It's like Dave Bautista in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Cool. There should be a Sephora for guys.
What would they?
You know what I mean? I think
sports stuff,
like pool tables.
This movie is Brain Dead-esque.
No, it's Greasy Strangler-esque through and through. I'd say that is the biggest comp you can have for this movie because it is, I think they're both presented in the same way about similar issues about just like the body and sort of just like coming to terms with like just like I think this film is trying to say like we as humans are just gross in general. Like we're
even beyond our
like
hyperfixations about how we change our bodies.
I think we're just gross no matter what, just because like we're weird little animals.
You saw how he ate the prawns.
Exactly. That shrimp scene, that was nuts.
Gross.
That was nuts.
Yeah.
But like,
that's when I knew we were in for something special.
Yeah.
But even just like, I don't know, like, I also think just like the Greasy Strangler and the Substance also like, there are films that talk about the gross parts of our culture and do it through a presentably gross way.
Yeah.
And I feel like the dialogue's the same. It's all very distance from our own reality.
Would you say this movie also sort of acts as like a deconstruction of the ego and the id?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is like the evolution of what the public and private self is.
Yeah.
I think the ego is what entirely, drives your public self, and then your id is the one that has to like sort of protect your private self.
Mm-hmm.
Did I say public self the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Okay. I was just going crazy. Sorry.
But yeah,
and it also leads to just like one of the craziest third acts I've ever seen in a film, maybe.
And also, this movie, although it's like a body horror drama, it's also hilarious.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
And that's why I comment to the Greasy Strangler, because it's like, that film just I feel like it does distance itself from like our plane of reality in the way that these people talk to each other and stuff like that, just to show the absurdity of what the message is, and it's just like, I think you need to be able to laugh through this.
Would you use the Substance if it was real?
I'm 25. If I use what would happen if I used the Substance right now?
You turned to an 8-year-old.
Like a little 8-year-old me, like shoot out of my back.
You remember when you were a kid?
What good would what good would that be?
You could keep doing
They'd
it.
have to like put my ass in school.
Yeah, you just be
and
back
I'd have
in-
to disappear for every other week. I feel like my substance self would be like the one I don't want around. You know, he'd be the one in the closet, just this 8-year-old. I wouldn't want that. Would you?
No, I just was wondering.
I think a little Brandon would be great. I'm gonna put up that picture of you in that fedora. I want that Brandon back. What about you? Would you take it?
I would if I didn't have to endure that fucking pain
Of the
going
back
through-
splitting open.
Oh, that was like some alien shit.
Here, let's put up little Chris on a horse. Look at him. There he is. That's gonna shoot out of Chris's back. The horse too.
All right,
You're gonna come galloping out.
what would we give the substance?
Yes. Let's get to the end here, Chris.
I'm giving it a 4.5 Blu-rays out of 5 Blu-rays.
Great. I am gonna give it. I'm gonna give it 4 Blu-rays. I had a great time. I do think that there's sometimes where, where I feel like the film does take itself seriously for a second, and I think it does create like a little break in like how I was engaging with it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there are some scenes like when she's like going out, to meet with the guy, or like some scenes like that where I just feel like, oh, this doesn't feel the same as the rest of the film. I can't point out too many other sequences, but I do know that like I thought that when I was watching the film, which is why I can't call it like perfect,
Fair
but I
enough.
still had such a great time with it, and it's gonna be one of the most memorable horror films to come out of both this year and I would say like of the last 5 years. Just because I
So
don't know.
different.
So different, so
Yeah.
unique, and I would really love everyone to check this film out.
Absolutely.
It's also interesting. Sorry, before you say your rating, there's another film out in theaters right now called A Different Man, and that talks about basically the same thing,
But for men.
but for men and also just people with disability.
Yeah.
And how like there's basically like, what if you could fix this, and there's like a cautionary tale about
Sure.
that, about how this guy's life would go if like he fixed it, and like sort of how his ego controlled it,
Yeah.
how it sort of fails him at the end. It's cool to see these movies coming out now, because I feel like artists and filmmakers are really fighting against
The typical
this-
Hollywood.
just like this mentality that has been created through social media. I think we're finally starting to see sort of like people speak up against that in film.
Okay.
Anyways, what's your rating? What did you think, son?
4.5.
4.5.
4.5.
That's a half.
I think for me, the third act, while great,
Yeah.
I think it does elongate itself a little much. Like, I feel like it explores, I think, effectively the differences between Demi Moore's life and Margaret Qualley's, or Qualley, or whatever, however you pronounce it. And,
Just kidding, Margaret Qualley. If you watch this,
We love you.
I loved you
He's
in The
single.
Nice Guys. What?
I liked
That's
her in
not where
Once
that
Upon
was
a Time
going
in
at all.
Hollywood.
Demi Moore, he's single.
Hey.
That
Hey,
is
there
that
we go.
actually
He would.
He would though.
Oh, listen. I think that's why I also was really engaged. I'm like, oh yeah, let's see you try to take one of the most beautiful women ever and like try to make her ugly.
Did
They
it work?
do. They do it.
Well, by the end they do it.
They turn into her into fucking Hoggle from Labyrinth. Put up a picture of him. That's what she looks like in the movie by the end. It's crazy.
But I think effectively it ties up its messaging with its final shot, which I think is terrific.
Yes.
And I think
Wonderful.
I love it when movies do that. Evelyn and I talk about that all the time, when a movie has a beginning shot and an end shot that mirror each other and mirror the themes effectively. And I think it does that. It's just to get there, it goes to this point of like self-parody, which works to a certain extent, but then it goes abridged not too far.
To Terabithia.
R.I.P. Anyway.
R.I.P. Terabithia.
But yeah, I think it's good. But I think the rest of the movie is fantastic. I was sucked in from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
It just like it grabs you and it doesn't let you go because of
It
just how
hooks her
intense
teeth in, yeah.
she directs the film and how it's edited. It's just like, oh, it's a fucking.
And you don't know what's
it's
going to
a
happen
party
next.
till the
Yeah,
end.
You
it
don't know
is.
what's going to
You
happen
know?
next, and that's
No.
like
Very unpredictable
unusual.
movie.
Yeah.
Very unusual. You think they set up things and you completely forget. You're like, oh my gosh.
Well, I think
There's
it
that
just,
wrinkle.
It's just so great because it's like we always know what Demi Moore knows, you know,
Yeah.
and what Margaret Qualley knows. Yeah. Like, so everything's a mystery. Everything's just as surprising and scary to us. As
And there's
it
still
is to them.
questions. There's still questions.
There's still lots of questions,
It's-
and that's what's so great about horror films. I believe
You don't
Like,
need answers.
I feel like a great horror film will leave you off with like more questions than when you came in.
I agree.
You know, where you're just like pondering the because like the mysteries of the universe are scary. You know, and it's scary to have so many questions about like the unexplained.
We love this movie.
Yeah,
Great.
it's great.
Go check it out.
Go check it out. Hopefully, it's still in theaters. I think it will. I think this is gonna have some legs. You know, I think
It already
mean-
made $6 million.
that's more money than I have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah. Not you though. Not you. He's rich. Brandon's rich now, dude. He had a gold mine. Did you know there's a gold mine underneath the your apartment? Okay.
Put up the address.
Put up the address again.
8657 Whopper.
You live at. All right.
Whopper,
Later.
Whopper, Whopper, Whopper.
And
Brandon lives at.